Oh, they can see me on? Yeah.
Brian, we good? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Marlboro Township Board of Education meeting, September 21st, 2021, 7 p.m. Where's Vinny?
Oh, he was here?
Oh, wait, we're waiting for Vinny.
Our secretary.
He can't take call if he's not here.
Didn't take roll. You got a new role now. Yeah.
Yeah, where is he?
I don't know.
All right, we're on a delay because we have to wait till Vinny gets here. Maybe he's out there. Should we? Do you want to text him and see where he is? Or call? Say, where are you? Technical difficulties, please stand by.
We were going to start with 7.
We were. Where is Vin?
I don't even have this list.
Oh, to do it?
Just to do everything but that checkbox that he has.
Can someone else do call? No, we'll just have to wait. Just tell Brian to wait.
It's not a big deal.
Okay. Vin's supposed to do that too.
Yeah, so we could.
It happens.
What, the delay? We're going to start.
Yep.
As soon as he gets Steve on the phone.
We don't have to. They should have been hearing it. Okay. But it's up to you.
As soon as we have Steve on, is Steve on? Yep. Okay. Once again, welcome to the Marlboro Township Board of Education regular board meeting, Marlboro Memorial Middle School, September 21st, 2021, 7 p.m. Vin, can you please take roll call?
Sure. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Roll call vote, Mrs. Amster?
Here.
Mrs. Branch?
Here.
Mr. Furlan?
Here.
Dr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Shiprinson?
Here.
Mrs. Shrem?
Here.
Mrs. Salashi?
Here.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Here.
And Mrs. Wolf?
Here, thank you. Sunshine Law. Please be advised that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, Sunshine Law, and that adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the news transcript, and has been posted and filed with the Marlboro Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I'm not going to read in full, but I will bring your attention to statement of videotaping of public portion of Board of Education meetings, public comment statement, no smoking on school grounds. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. In addition, please remain standing for a moment of silence, which will be observed in memory of Mrs. Megan Luciano. Third grade teacher at Frank J. Dugan Elementary School, who passed away on September 4th, 2021. Mrs. Luciano had a special talent and possessed the gift of teaching. Her caring, compassion, and love for her students have made a positive impact on their lives over her 13 years of service to the district. She will be remembered as kind and caring with a heartwarming smile and happy face. And we send our condolences to the entire Luciano family and the Sandusky family. So after the pledge, please just remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and once again, our condolences go out to the entire Dugan community, to the Sandusky and Luciano families on the loss of Megan. She was certainly a special person.
Absolutely.
Okay, announcements. Hard to move to that.
Ben, are you for announcements? You want to talk about Chartwell for a sec?
Just an announcement we just wanted to take the time to discuss. So there was stuff that was circling around there about our food service management company, Chartwell's. Unfortunately, I guess they were involved in an incident in another neighboring district. But we just wanted to clarify that, we do use Chartwell's, but it's not of the same measure. So they do prepare the food differently. They do have different staff. We do get commodities differently from other places rather than the other district. So I just wanted to take this time just to say that, Vinny Palmero and his staff do a tremendous job in providing services to the students and staff of Marlboro, and they do work tirelessly in providing those services. And I just think it would be, very disingenuous to lump our Chartwell's program in with, anything going on with other neighboring districts.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Vin, on that, and I agree about Vinny. They're awesome, and they do a lot for this community.
Well spoken, Ben.
Vin, school bus driver and building maintenance personnel, motor vehicle abstracts?
Sure, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Michael.
Okay. Mr. Balone, student impact.
One second, Mrs. Wolf. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This month's student impact comes to us from the Abbott Early Learning Center. So we do have a video for you, but just as a brief introduction, the art teacher over at Abbott, Ms. Caroline Fix, she led her students from the Abbott Center. They started acquiring their knowledge about just 6 days into school, really at the time that we published this agenda. They began a recent lesson by viewing a video of The Dot, which is a story about a character who is faced with a blank piece of paper. With a gentle invitation by the character's teacher to express herself, she becomes unstuck, fully embracing her own creativity. It is a story about exploring an idea in a different way and sharing our own creativity with others. Sparking their own creativity, students began to apply painting skills and techniques to create their own unique dot. While doing so, students practiced holding their paintbrush, dipping it for the right amount of paint, as well as other skills used in order to blend colors and create textures. So here's just a quick video of Miss Fix introducing her students and some of the work they did as we began our academic year.
Hi, my name is Caroline Fix, and I'm the art teacher here at the Early Learning Center. The Dot Project is my favorite beginning of the year lesson for my kindergartners. The story The Dot by Peter J. Reynolds is about a little girl who feels frustrated in art class because she doesn't think she can draw. Her teacher tells her to just make a mark and see where it takes you. The little girl does just that by slamming her pencil onto her paper, making the tiniest dot. That little dot begins her artistic journey that is filled with perseverance and self-discovery. It's a perfect story to teach kids about growth mindset and that even when you don't think you can do something, you can. Kindergartners paint their very own dots however they would like. They can use any colors, make any designs, it's their choice. But before we start painting our dots, we learn the parts of a paintbrush, how to hold it properly, how to apply the paint, and how to wash our brush in between colors. Students crack up when I tell them that their paintbrush will have a bad hair day if they press too hard. So they try their very best to press gently so that their paintbrush has a good hair day. My favorite part is seeing how everybody's dot is different, and that sparks our lesson for the next class. Great job, Katie.
I tried to get that rainbow bird. Oh, that's nice.
Put some yellow.
I mixed them up. Look at yours. Oh my gosh, you're making darkest purple. You're making
Very messy.
I love painting. This is my first time.
There is also a lot of learning that goes on behind the scenes in art class. Grasping the paintbrush helps children develop their fine motor muscles. Creating art also enhances hand-eye coordination, problem solving, and critical thinking skills, skills they will be using throughout their lifetime. There are also many social emotional benefits. Art class helps students grow and develop their creativity, self-esteem, and communication skills. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and I love being there for my students as they begin their artistic journey.
Make a mark. Express yourself. Take the risk. You can do it. Don't be afraid to try.
Michael, that was great. Thank you to the Mrs. Fix and her Abbott students. I want to find that book, The Dot. Sounds like it would be good for any age students. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Hibbs,
Okay. Hi, everybody.
MTPS reopening clarifications.
Yeah, so I want to take a few minutes and talk about some things that are really important to the district and how we opened. All in, I think we had a great opening, considering that the world around us is still not looking so great. I want to talk about our dashboard very quickly, and I'll give you the updated numbers as of today. So as of today, we have 24 current positive student cases. We have 41 cumulative student positive cases. We have 216 cumulative students quarantined, and currently we have 144, down from 164, which was just the day prior. We have 3 current staff positive cases and 13 cumulative. We have 10 staff that are quarantined, and 1 cumulatively, and then 1 that's currently in quarantine. So 164, I believe, was the highest of the students that we actually had in quarantine, which is almost at the height of where we were last year. So we are seeing a very tremendous number of cases. We were averaging about 12 a day for the first 3 days, which is absolutely significant. And I won't use names with other districts, but when you look at the region, there's only one other that's about 4 ahead of us, and everyone else is significantly behind us. 4 positive cases, including staff and students, 2, 29, 24, and 22. So we're not quite leading the way, but we're just barely behind one other district, which is significantly above almost all of the rest. Take a minute and talk about Chartwells and Vinny. I know he mentioned, the positive things. As of 9/17, we've given out over 12,000 free lunches and over 44,000 free snacks. So I really want to, again, give massive kudos to all of our Chartwells employees. Over the weekend, there was some very unkind words written about them. So we huddled up and made sure that they knew how much that they were loved and appreciated, and that, words sometimes, are unkind. And we let them know how much we cared about them. As far as masks go, I know it's a very hot topic, but we are not seeing issues with students inside the building wearing masks at all. As far as the governor's letter went, last board meeting we talked about writing a letter to the governor. Rob, you want to take a sec and talk about this with the board and possibly read it?
Sure, I'm going to read it. It was sent to the board. Dear Governor Murphy, you are receiving this letter on behalf of the Marlboro Township Public Schools, MTPS, its Board of Education members, and the Marlboro parents and guardians. Our Board of Education members felt it important that you hear the facts about the district, along with specific associated feelings of our parents, guardians. Marlboro Township Public Schools conducted a survey of all parents and guardians regarding their feelings with respect to Executive Order 251. Primarily, the mandatory use of face masks by staff, students, and visitors in the indoor portion of the school district premises. The specific questions from the survey and results are listed below. Possible survey respondents, 4,533. Number of parents, guardians who responded, 4,460, 98.4% response rate. Yes, I support the mandate requiring masks in school, 2,957, representing 66.3%. No, I do not support the mandate and would have preferred parents and guardians to be given the option to choose whether their child or children wear masks in schools, 1,503, representing 33.7%. As a superintendent, I have heard from members on both sides of this topic, including MTPS Board of Education members. Community members in favor of masks, representing 66.3%, are advocating for their continued use and are expressing concern over COVID-19 cases. They are also asking that parents and guardians have the option to choose remote learning for their children. Community members not in favor of masks, representing 33.7%, would like to be able to choose the use of masks for their children instead of having to adhere to the mandate. MTPS is upholding your executive orders. We monitor classroom temperatures daily in each MTPS building without air conditioning. MTPS will only use a heat exemption when classrooms are exceedingly hot. The use of face masks by staff, students, and visitors in the indoor portion of MTPS that has air conditioning will always be mandated regardless of the outdoor temperature. MTPS takes this virus seriously. Each day we formalize our COVID-19 dashboard. Below is a screenshot of our MTPS COVID-19 district dashboard from Friday, September 17, 2021. Then it lists the dashboard. We realize that COVID-19 is a continuous issue affecting the health and well-being of our students, staff, and community. The MTPS Board of Education is committed to conveying the facts about the district to you. Thank you in advance for your continued support of New Jersey School District. Sincerely. So that will be sent out to everyone. Had an opportunity to look at it? Good. Thank you. Thank you. We worked on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we try to go
better.
right down the middle to represent the
facts,
entire
so they-
community and what has been sent to all of us. Absolutely. Okay. So, as far as PPE goes, we are fully covered. We have absolutely no issues. We should have no issues for the entire year. So we're all good on that. I want to give a thank you to all of our staff members and especially our school nurses who jumped right back into the thick of things with contact tracing. It's actually quite difficult. What we are seeing this year is that we are seeing a greater occurrence of children that are quarantined becoming sick later on when they're home. Last year, there really seemed to be what was an over-quarantine, and this year we're actually seeing more children at home on quarantine develop signs and symptoms. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. As far as curriculum standards go, and Mike's going to talk about this, at the curriculum meeting as well. There really is, at this point, it's not really a false claim. It's really a lie that we did not cover all of our curriculum standards. We absolutely did. And any member that ever makes this claim, we always ask them to come in to show them the pacing guides, and we're honestly never taken up on that. And Mike's going to go deeper in the curriculum section, but I just want to go on record again that it's not even a false claim anymore. It's just a blatant lie. As far as masking goes, I honestly, I'm just not going to debate masks or their efficacy, whether or not they should or should not. At this point, really, it's the executive order, and the executive order is the executive order. And quite frankly, with the high number of cases that we have, we really should be having a cautious approach. I want to go on the record about civility, not only at board meetings, but also in our buildings, and exchanges with our staff members. Personally, in the last in the last week-ish, I've actually had people curse, yell, scream. That type of behavior is just simply not acceptable in any one of our buildings. And it's very important to remember that we respect everyone's feelings, whether you're in the 60+% or the 34%, whatever that was. We respect everybody's right to an opinion, and we're always respectful, and that same needs to be returned back to us. Quite frankly, we're at work right now. So, hostility, nasty comments, meanness, cursing, it's nowhere near acceptable. And you'll never get that from us because we're always respectful. So Want to go on the record with that one. As far as the heat exemption goes, we put out communications on 9/8 and 9/13. We watch the weather daily. Thankfully, over the next 10 days, it seems as if the temperature should remain somewhat cool. Tomorrow, Wednesday, seems to be the hottest day of the week, and after that, it really looks like it hovers in the 73-ish degree range, give or take. So what we do is that we look at every classroom. We use the indoor temperature, the outdoor temperature. We actually we have temperature guns, and temperatures in buildings, actually in specific rooms, can vary anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7, even more degrees. So you could be at Morel in one room, it could be 83, and another room could be 76. So we watch this, and if it becomes, quite frankly, into the 80s, that's when we're actually looking at children removing masks, aside from if they were having any difficulties or needed a break. That's typically the temperature that we look at. With our high number of cases, we quite frankly don't feel as if a blanket removal is appropriate, so we're dealing with that on a case-by-case basis. And we will continue to do so. And not that any of us want summer to leave, but it is on its way out, and cooler temperatures will be here. As far as the executive order that put testing in for staff members and also for volunteers, Marlboro Township Public Schools put in for the grant of the $200+ million that will go to school districts. And we did that because they actually changed their stance. Initially, they had said that it was mandated to test children, and I was just very uncomfortable with that piece. Now that student testing is optional for parents and guardians. So what will end up happening, and we don't know exactly what it looks like yet because the state has not told us, they are in the process of choosing their vendors on how we test. And then what will happen is we'll have our vendor, and then we will set up times for our staff members to be tested. We're not quite sure of time frames yet, but the student population will also be able to be tested, of course, with parent permission or with a parent wish, but it would totally be up to you as a parent or guardian. As of right now, Mike, do you remember the number of staff members that we had off the top of your head, roughly?
Unvaccinated or vaccinated?
Either one.
Yeah, I think it was, actually, I do have it here.
Yeah, I have it too.
It's in the 200 range, unvaccinated.
Yeah, I think it was slightly over 200, right?
So we had 29% of our staff is unvaccinated.
And what was that number, Mike?
It was 259.
So we are going to be responsible for ensuring that, was it 259, Mike?
Yes.
259 staff members are tested on a weekly basis at the bare minimum, and they have to supply proof. We also, for the other portion of our staff, just so you know, they had to supply proof of their vaccination, which is what we had to do as per the executive order. And again, that will look like something as soon as the state comes back and tells us what we have and how we can use them. So we don't frankly have that information yet because they haven't given it to us. But that will also include volunteers as well. Volunteers will have to be tested. A volunteer is someone that is actually regularly in the building. It is not a one-off. So if you're just coming to pick up a child or you need something very quickly, it's a one-off, or if it's someone who's fixing a window, they do not need to fall under that mandate. But if you are someone who is in the building on a regular basis, you absolutely will have to comply with that, and we'll make sure that anybody who's in PTA, PTO, anything along those lines, the MEF that might be in there, we'll make sure that they are fully aware and taken care of as well. Okay. This year has been interesting for the reacclimation. We've had some kids that really haven't been in the building for a while. So just to be very honest, we've had a lot of classroom management discussions in the first few days of school. It's nothing that we can't handle, and a massive shout out to our teachers who are doing a great job with that. Last two. So I want to just again draw attention to our numbers, which are very, very high compared to other and surrounding districts. So don't misunderstand me or try to read into my words. We have no intention on closing a building or the district. We are open for business and we plan to stay that way. However, the number of cases is very, very high. And we are right out of the gate, we are seeing children come to school with kids that are home with signs and symptoms. So I'm going to beg, plea that if any child has a sign or symptom, please keep the siblings home. And it really could mean the difference between knocking out an extra 30 children in the schools. It really, and I understand that this is such a hard time, but we're responsible for the entire system, and we have to look at it that way. And if we don't, we're not respectful of others. And not only is it not respectful of others who are then knocked out, quite possibly, it also causes a lot more work for us in the buildings as well. Because contact tracing, honestly, quite honestly, takes hours upon hours. Every school nurse and every administrator is working well beyond their time. The poor nurses at times are working until 11 and 12 o'clock at night a.m. just to make sure that we're covered across the board. So again, if any child has symptoms, it's essential that you keep the siblings home until there's a test. And our nurses are always available to help guide anyone through this process, and they will be happy to do so. They are quite incredible. And as the nurses go, I'll finish again on please be nice to them, because there's multiple accounts of people yelling, screaming, hanging up on our nurses, which they're honestly just doing their job. So that's the reopening, Madam President.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hibbs, for that. Is anyone good? Okay, communications, anything?
No, ma'am.
HIB report?
Public comments?
Yeah, public comment. Yeah.
Oh, did I miss that? Sorry, public comments. Those who wish to speak should state their name and address. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. The business administrator will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining. We will respond after all public comments. Members of the public should be respectful and avoid back and forth and debate with the administrative professional or board member responding to the inquiry or comment. Vin, do you have the list?
So I'm going to call the first person. So I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your last name. First up is Mrs. Kim Zanizi.
Zunis.
Sorry.
It's okay. Kim Zunis, 30 Kennedy Drive. Goal 4, as listed in the kindergarten health curriculum reads, all students will learn the physical, emotional, and social aspects of human relationships and sexuality and apply these concepts to support a healthy lifestyle. In this climate, where our governor has signed a law mandating sex education in the kindergarten classroom, and where parents have lost the ability to make decisions concerning when and how sex should be introduced and have no ability to opt out of lessons that go against their religious beliefs as well as their morality, we need more clarification. We need to see in detail what exactly this curriculum entails. Detailed lesson plans that will be used should be provided to parents so that they are informed exactly what their children will be taught. Terms like sexuality, physical relationships, and healthy lifestyle need to be defined as they are used in the kindergarten classroom. And just to your point that you were saying at the beginning of this meeting, I am unclear as to why vaccinated teachers do not need to get tested, as we know there have been plenty of breakthrough cases for the vaccinated.
Thank you. We'll respond at the very end.
Sure. So next up is Mrs. Angela Colby.
Hi, Angela Colby, 18 Markham. Have a couple questions regarding the agenda items that you have. I'd like to know what the power coaches, leap coaches, and rise coaches do, and the coordinators within the schools. I would like to know how many people have moved out of the district versus last year. I would like to know how many special education teachers and substitutes have been hired since last year. I also would like to know how Mr. Malone and the principals are ensuring that the teachers are following the curriculum, how those lessons plans are submitted and approved, and how they...
Can you go slower for me? I can't write that fast. I'm sorry.
Sorry, a little nervous.
I'll give you more time. Don't be nervous. You can have it.
Okay, where do you want me to go back to?
I got Power, Leap, and Rise. I got how many students moved out, right?
How many students have moved out of the district?
Special ed teachers hired.
How many special ed education teachers and substitutes have been hired since last year?
Is that special ed? It's just substitutes in general, right?
Substitutes and teachers. How does Mr. Ballone and the principals ensure that teachers are following the curriculums? How are the lesson plans submitted, and how are they approved and taught to the students? The curriculum guides that are posted online say that they go up to 5th grade. My daughter is in 3rd, so I want to know how a 3rd grade student is learning the curriculum, or if it's posted throughout the 5th grade they have to learn by then.
I didn't get that one.
And since it's been communicated regarding math regression, I want to know how kids are going to be tested related to that, how the special ed kids are going to be tested related to the regression for math and ELA, since they are not tested with the general ed students. How do we get our our special ed kids tested to see if they're up to the curriculum standards? And I would like to understand how each of you as a board member justify your role as a decision to give Mr. Ballone a stipend when the kids are not meeting their educational standards. Thank you.
I didn't get them all.
Yeah.
I didn't get them all.
Okay, I got it. I got it. I can go over that.
Okay, so next up is Mrs. Annette Seward.
Copy of that, is that okay? I couldn't get them all, and if you want us to respond to the ones that we can respond to, I just didn't get them all. Is that okay? Rob, could you help me, please?
This is
Thank
my
you very much.
sidekick, Matthew.
Hi. Hi.
Great Star Wars shirt.
Thank you. His nickname is Chewy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have something you want to say? Go ahead. You can take your mask down to speak. I have no idea what he's about to say. Go ahead, that's okay. You could say whatever you want, honey. How about I go first? You ready? Okay. Good evening, Dr. Hibbs, board, and fellow parents. My name is Annette Seward, and I reside at 18 Nashua Drive. I am here tonight to apply the critical thinking process, to develop empathy, challenging biases, to better understand different perspectives and experiences, to creatively problem solve, and innovate solutions for diverse groups of people with specific needs. Sound familiar? Some of you here may recognize me as the one who brought the coffee last month. I was applauded by you, Dr. Hibbs, as well as other board members for my presentation on outdoor learning. I followed through with your suggestion to schedule an in-office meeting. I was encouraged by my peers to bring a witness. Your approval rating is not in your favor. My husband and I decided to give you the benefit of the doubt, allowing us to form our own opinion of you. You proudly showed us your district incentive, a collage of different phrases of teamwork and encouragement. Can you hold that for me? Support one another, walk in the shoes of others, continuously improve all things, intellectual conflict encouraged, check your ego at the door, practice blameless problem solving. After a brief getting to know you, we sat and listened as you informed us of the approval of tents on each campus. If I remember correctly, your exact words to me were, each tent can hold up to 3 classes, and the principals of each school will have to work on scheduling outdoor learning sessions, effortlessly passing the baton off to district principals. You congratulated me for bringing forth a solution instead of a problem. You allowed me to offer the help of PTO members, and we spoke about carts for transporting classroom supplies. I naively skipped out of your office and went to lunch with my husband to celebrate. You blatantly lied to me. You knew all along that these tents would be used as an alternative to indoor lunch, which is already an opportunity where the children could take a mask break. How does this resolve anything? You deceived us into feeling hopeful and accomplished when you knew all along this was just a way to shut us up. I think go the extra mile, do the right thing, and speak straight applies best to this hypocrisy. You looked me in the eye and gave me permission to tell my 7th grade daughter that her year would return to normal with the exception of a mask. Emphatically, you said, yes, go home and tell her. They get off the bus every morning and wait 10 to 15 minutes to get their temperature checked at the door. That's not normal. Insert honor commitments and own your responsibilities here. Treasure, protect, and promote our reputation. I'm doing just that. This board, with the exception of a few, has lost the trust of parents and taxpayers alike, and that's the culture you allow. Under your poor leadership, this system is failing our community and our children. Your motives are questionable. We deserve representation on the board filled with parents, not of those with political agendas. Maybe it's time someone from within our own community and not one from such Gloucester County. And with this reaction from the curriculum rollout tonight, I know I'm not alone. Also, women like handshakes better than hugs. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mrs. Valentina Mendez. Thank you, Val.
Good evening. Valentina Mendez, 14 Sandburg Drive. You did address the Chartwells incident. They do have, I'm not talking about any of the staff, I'm just speaking solely of the food. They do have a variety of complaints, though, about their food on a regular basis, which I've been doing some research on. I'm also paying attention to the menu that my children are served, so I send them with their own food every day. But is there any option to look into other food service industries and providers? I understand the cost could be about $2 per child right now, and there may be a little bit of a hike in that, but is there any thought to looking into other vendors? Again, not speaking of the staff in any way, just solely speaking of the quality of the food.
Okay, next up is Mr. Leo Dovelman. Now, Mr. Dovelman, your name is on here twice, so are you electing to speak consecutively, or you like to speak one and then the second one?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Leo Deoman, 51 Buttonwood Drive. Wow, what a difference a month makes. When I booked my plane tickets to travel abroad in August, I knew I'd miss one BOE meeting. But I thought we had finally moved beyond crisis and controversy towards some path of mutual understanding and a possible pathway towards building some trust. Boy, do I feel stupid. Now let me pause here and say one thing. I always force myself to assume positive intentions. So if anyone here chooses to respond to anything I say, please don't waste your breath explaining that you're really a good, kind, and caring person. Let's just assume that you are, or at least genuinely believe that you are. But this is no longer about your thoughts or your feelings. This is about your actions and the damage that has been done and is still being done every day. The shock that I felt when I saw the so-called survey come out was replaced by utter disgust when I watched all the high-fiving and backslapping that went on here based on the so-called results of the so-called survey. Dear board members, you have been duped, and you should be furious. Anyone who took actions based on that survey, anyone who put their name to an official letter based on those results, should feel a deep sense of shame. Now, we will never know whether you were misled purposely or through lack of survey writing competence or through some other circumstance or influence. But at least two people sitting there with you hold doctorates and were trained extensively in how to craft questions to gather accurate and unbiased information. And at least those two people know full well that in order to mitigate bias, you can never ask just one single question. At a minimum, you need to get at your question in several different ways, changing phrasing, and most importantly, changing the ordering of the answers indicative of the same outcome. That is how you make sure that the respondents, at a minimum, read the darn question. This survey was the opposite. It maximized bias by forcing parents desperate to access bus schedules, teacher names, locker codes, etc., to click through this, among other stupid forms that nobody reads, with a default answer already pre-selected for them. Make no mistake about this. This isn't a survey to find out how the community feels. This is a digital tool to force numbers into a pre-established conclusion. Now, I raised this concern to the administration immediately before any results were known and sent in a statement from my wife, also a PhD and a trained researcher, but was told that rules had changed since the very previous meeting when statements were read without a problem, and this was no longer possible. How convenient. In addition to the suggestions that were in my letter last month, which you asked for a copy of so you could respond to but never did, I would like to make the following requests. The board should ask the administration to give regular public updates in this forum if timely, or in an alternate forum if a meeting is more than a week away, on any preparatory steps being taken to switch to virtual learning. Any meetings, any guidelines, any rehearsals, any union discussions. There should be a permanent public update line on the agenda like the HIB report. Parents need maximum visibility to prepare to pull kids from the district and/or organize pods. Failure to disclose should be grounds for dismissal of the district staff tasked with the disclosure. The board should also ask for clarification of exactly why students are being quarantined if the guidelines state that quarantine isn't necessary when masked. Were mask rules not followed, or were quarantine guidelines not followed? Where's the breakdown? What is the point of torturing our kids with masks if you're quarantining them anyway? The board should ask for regular updates on the number of disciplinary actions taken for violations of mask policy by students and by staff, by building and by grade. It is important to know what the enforcement of these draconian policies looks like. More to come later on. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mrs. Gupta. You're both on here. Would any of you like to speak? Okay, so we'll go down the list. Next is Mrs. Victoria Jakeski. Sorry, I think I mispronounced that.
Thank you for having a tone of respect. My name is Victoria. I am the State Director of New Jersey Parental Rights and Team PYC Protect Your Children. I've served in this capacity for a decade now. We are parents, teachers, school board members, concerned taxpayers, mothers, fathers, church leaders, Christians, and people of faith. We are many, and we represent thousands from all over the state and dozens from your district. Our faith and our deep religious views are in peril. We are very concerned about the pending implementation of the new LGBT and inclusion curriculums. We want to be clear. We care about each and every child, and we support and defend equality. We believe that all children should be cared for, respected, protected, and have equal rights to learn, excel, and to reach their fullest potential, including white, black, rich, poor, gay, and straight. However, treating all equally cannot mean that those with deep religious views are discriminated against. We are highly concerned that the LGBT history will teach lifestyles and life choices that stand 100% against our family values, our deeply held religious views, and the way we practice our faith. We are here to say that to force the normalcy of the LGBT lifestyle onto our children and into the schools' everyday lesson plans is a stripping of our religious liberty and the parental rights of every parent who feels these subject matters are too mature to be taught to any child. The children need to learn how to read, write, and do arithmetic. They are not being sent to school to learn about sexual orientations or sexual practices of others, but to be educated. The New Jersey Senate Budget Appropriations Committee Statement number 1569 regarding the LGBT curriculum bill is modeled on a law adopted by California, the California Fair Act, which took effect in January of 2012. The I in Fair stands for inclusive. If you do not know, California schools are not only teaching the Q, but they've added the P under the guise of inclusion. Many schools are teaching that adults who are attracted to children is one of the many sexual orientations people choose in their lesson plans. Yes, pedophilia is being taught. When New Jersey S 1569 was signed into law by Governor Murphy, the initial goal was to include the history of disabled LGBT persons in all middle and high schools. The Q has now magically appeared in many lesson plans. How did the Q magically appear? Will the P be next? Where will this stop? The Holy Word of God says have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret, Ephesians 5:11 and 12. Yet this curriculum's goal is to normalize these deeds of darkness and teach them as a required part of the New Jersey learning standards. This is a true assault of our deeply held faith and religious liberty. We do not want any child to feel unwanted, left out, discriminated against, but we are here to say that this pending curriculum, if forced, and implanted into the hearts and minds of the children
minute.
will do exactly that, discriminate against every person of faith. You said time?
Just 1 minute, yeah.
Oh, 1 minute? Okay, very
left.
good. Please do not let this curriculum be implemented. Please use the 2014 New Jersey Learning Centers as the New Jersey Department of Education has now permitted to hold off on a whole year before implementing this. Hold off until the parents can work with you to introduce appropriate curriculum, or as you all know, by law, by all of these laws that have passed, you have the authority as the school board to decide the appropriate place. Both the inclusion bill and the LGBT history law says that the school boards can decide where the appropriate place is. You also must know that in health, by state law, every parent can opt out of the health curriculum. So if you choose to put it in health, you are then giving the parents the legal right to opt out. So I'm pleading with you, and I will work with you, and we have many people throughout the state in leadership that are working on this. But if you would work with the parents and find a way to mitigate this, or only put it in health, many, many parents would be thrilled. So thank you for your time.
Okay, last on the list is Miss Jess Julie. Or Jess Gulli, G-U-L-I. No? Okay, then that closes public comment, Madam.
Brian? Okay, we will respond to,
Okay. I'll respond
start?
to what I can.
right, there's some we might have to get back to you on.
Respond to. So as far as, like, I think there's two comments here. So let's take the concept of the kindergarten
Goal number 4.
sexual discussion, goal number 4. You want to give just a quick overview on why we're not really talking about sex in kindergarten?
Sure. No, we're not. So that's the simple answer. So I think it's important to understand when the New Jersey Department of Education puts forth the, language, be it standards, those are statements that are given to every public New Jersey school district. We then take those statements or standards and then we create a curriculum. So our curriculum is where we are given the autonomy on how to meet those standards. So the goal that was read is those are essentially core ideas that are put forth by the New Jersey Department of Education. So that's why they're listed there as a goal. If you look further into the curriculum guide, how we meet that goal are things like, and I actually have it here in front of me. Okay, so one of the topics for social and sexual health as the core idea, we have things like looking at how individuals have unique skills, qualities, which can include the activities they enjoy, such as mannerisms, things they like to do, how families shape the way we think about our bodies and our health and our behaviors, how people have relationships with others in the local community and beyond, how communication is the basis for strengthening relationships and resolving conflict between people. So that's coming directly out of our curriculum guide. While you will see the word sexual, that's really delivered by the New Jersey Department of Education, we as a school district have local autonomy on what that looks like in the classroom. So you can think of the standard as the statement that is, for lack of a better term, imposed on us. And then what we do is we create a curriculum, definition being what the day-to-day looks like in our classrooms. Assessments, resources, how the teachers actually teach on a day-to-day basis. So I hope that helps answer or clarify some of the concerns. We are certainly not teaching about, we're not teaching sex in kindergarten or at the elementary level, certainly not.
Nope, not at all. The second part of that was the concept of vaccinated teachers being tested. They just weren't included in that, so we need to make sure. I have no problems with any vaccinated teacher who wants to be tested. I just want to make sure that it's going to be covered in that same grant, in which case I think anyone who wants to get tested, I think it's a fabulous idea. Mrs. Colby, there are a lot of things here that these kinds of questions just we're not going to have at our fingertips at a meeting. So the concept of how many people moved out, I would have no idea of that right now. I can tell you that I think we were very close to.
When I actually checked enrollment, we were actually only 78 kids down from where we were at the end of June 30th last year. I believe from the move-out rate, there was about 120 kids per se that moved out. That's on average. It fluctuates. So, I mean, we do have like 45 incompleted registrations that we're still waiting on. So it does change daily. So that's why I try to stay on top of the number and check.
In addition, our 8th graders moved on, so the numbers might be less just because we might have had a larger 8th grade class.
Correct. You might have a smaller 8th grade class coming in and a larger one that went out.
Yep. We'll pull the numbers, and no problems. Power, Leap, and Rise are all programs that we use to address the learning needs of kids. I'll be happy to have Michael send you what those stand for and how we do that. As far as the special ed teachers, we'd have to pull that too. I'll put that next to Mr. Balone. How do we ensure they follow the curriculum? Well, we have detailed pacing guides and units of study, and then we actually monitor lesson plans and check them off through Genesis. So they are definitely submitted and they are approved by a building principal, but that doesn't mean that only principals can check lesson plans. Any of our supervisors can as well.
Something with the curriculum
Yeah,
guides.
curriculum guides have a grade listed online, but say by 5th grade. So a lot of times what they'll say is they'll give you grade bands by the end of 2nd, by the end of 5th, by the end of 8th. And then when we curriculum write, you can put standards in different places as long as they're covered in that grade span. Correct, Mr. Balone? Correct. Math regression, how will testing be administered? So there's a lot of testing we have. So we have the state assessment, which will take place in the fall, and then it'll happen again in the spring. That was per the federal mandate. We also have our common assessments this year that will help guide instruction, and then students will receive remediation after. Is special ed included in the regression evals? Every child is always looked at for regression, and special ed is, right? Dane?
I know Mrs. Viskoski, you got an email already about this, but in terms of special education, it depends on the individualized education plan. So that is what we follow. So for example, self-contained students or our nonverbal autism students might not take the BOY or the EOY, or our multiply disabled students might not take the BOY or EOY, but they are assessed based on their progress goals of the IEP, and that is essentially how they are determined based on what needs to be worked on their goals. So if any special education parent is wondering what is being assessed or how they're working on any regression, I would reach out to your case manager and they can speak specifically to your child's IEP.
Yep.
Parent in that situation, in what you said, the multi-disabled or the autism program, if they requested their child take the end of the year assessment in one of those tests, in one of those areas, would that be okay? Is that a thing that they can do?
Yes, I would have them speak with their case manager and they can come up with a plan.
Okay, thank you.
The next one really wasn't for me. It's about Mr. Balone. Mr. Balone manages our Title I program, which is actually a huge endeavor to help children. And clarify, the letter of the governor was going after modification to the survey to give more options. We never talked about putting more options besides yes or no. And I can address, Mr. Davelman's right here. I just disagree that the parents of our community aren't intelligent enough to read a survey. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. And I also disagree in the fact that we don't have stupid forms. We actually have very important forms that really, I think parents take seriously. Now, are there some that probably rush through? Maybe there are. However, I do believe that everyone has the ability of reading and answering a survey. So that was Mrs. Colby. We'll be happy to get these other answers to you, as it's just too much of a lift here. Annette, wow, I was honest with you the whole way through. I'm not going to argue with you here. You clearly have your point of view. I in no way lied to you. I spoke honestly and truthfully. And I even checked in with people on tents as of today. So how they're specifically using their tents, I got the tents and they were allowed to go out at any point in time. So if you have any questions, you could raise them to your building principal. I in no way passed the buck, but I just didn't pass the buck. But I'm not going to argue with you about what you think of me at this point. Mrs. Mendez, I'd love to see the complaints that you have, because I don't get those complaints. I actually get a ton of positive about the food, and I get a lot of, there's gluten-free options, there are vegan options. So honestly, I've eaten the food on numerous occasions. I think we do a decent job. We do a is it a bid? How do we do it, Ben, every few years?
So the way the food service management company works is, so we go out to bid usually every 3 to 5 years. We're in actually the 5th year of 5, so we would actually go out to bid for the next school year. So the way it works is you can do a variable contract or a fixed contract, depending on what we want our guarantee to be. The companies that submit have to be able to meet that guarantee for us to be able to contract with them and continue services. I've only been here for 2 years, so I know in the past we've had Chartwells for a very long time, but this year it may be different depending on who bids on the contract. So that is coming up at the end of the school year.
Thank you, Vin.
Yep. As far as Mr. Davilman's other requests, we've had 0 discussions on the transition to virtual. If we ever have those discussions, I would always be open with the board and to the public. I'll say publicly right now, I have 0 intention of taking our kids and going virtual, and I think I already said that. So I have no problems reporting out honestly on what we're doing. As far as the rules for quarantining go, it's real simple with children. If they're within 3 feet of a student that's positive, even with a mask, they get quarantined. It's not my rule, that's the CDC rule. If they're outside of 3 feet, then they do not have to go into quarantine. And that does not apply for adults. That only applies for children. And as far as, the comment about disciplinary action for masks, I can't believe that's a serious comment. We literally, I know of no disciplinary action taken against children with masks at all, as in 0. Victoria, thank you. You were super, super awesome and respectful in that heartfelt discussion. What we have chosen to do is that we are, as far as LGBTQIA goes, we are focusing on simply the accomplishments of individuals. That is how NTPS is addressing. Correct, Mr. Balone? So we are not having, discussions that go deeper than that piece. So it's just simply focusing on the accomplishments of individuals, which I think, it's important to recognize the accomplishments of all people. And Madam President.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming out and for all your comments. We're going to move on to our communications. Is there anything?
No, ma'am.
No. Your HIB report.
So we have 0 incidents.
That's a good start. Our next meeting is October 26, 2021, 7 o'clock here. Committee reports, Curriculum Committee. Trish.
Thank you. So we met just prior to this meeting. A lot of the questions that the parents in our community raised, we actually had a lot of those discussions in the meeting. So thank you, Mr. Balone, for answering our questions and then answering them again here, because I think it is a very sensitive topic. Curriculum, what are our kids learning? So we did take a look at the curriculum implementation schedule. It was revised, and I think we've already discussed it, but we have a 5-year cycle that we do as our district that we review. And that's what we put in the budget. We budget for that, then we review it. And then mandates that come from the state do affect what makes the list as far as curriculum revisions are concerned. I think there can be sometimes a small amount of curriculum and then sometimes a larger list of curriculum. And we did go through all of those. And I think one of the additions that was made from Mr. Balone was to add a draft curriculum guide section, which is on the website, which is, I think, really helpful. And it sounds like you all have looked at that, which was wonderful. So just to, moving forward, we will have that, which when the draft when it's in draft mode before we vote, it will be there. And when it is voted on, then it moves. And I think that's important for you all to see, because you will see curriculum and then you will see draft. Sometimes draft will have nothing in it, and sometimes it'll have things in it, because that's what we're working on prior to looking at it and voting on it in the meeting. We talked about the math end of year remediation timeline, how that looks, looking at, let's see. Oh, and then the Start Strong assessments that are happening this fall, what that looks like. The fact that 6th grade will have 2 days of testing because they're including a map, and all the other grades will have 1 day of testing. And then looking more at the QSAC, which is how we get evaluated as a district, and addressing any questions or anything that we have as a district to make those scores as strong as possible. And that was basically, I think, the meeting, unless I missed anything. Michael, you don't have anything to add?
Good summary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the curriculum committee. And thank you to everyone who helped write the curriculum. Okay, we're going to move to our discussion of our 2021-2022 school year Board of Education goals that were sent out to everyone a few weeks ago, and then again this week, last week actually. Does anyone have anything they want to add, anything they want to say about the goals that were brought up or the ones that were listed underneath? Does everyone? Does everyone like the goals that we listed? Goal 1, district culture and climate. Goal 2, student achievement. Goal 3, the infrastructure. Goal 4, community interaction. Goal 5, policy development. And Goal 6, MTPS road forward plan for 2021-22 school year. Was everyone good? And then there were some additional on the bottom. Did anyone? Yep.
The suggestions you said, yeah. No, I mean, I like goals to be more specific, and we've had that discussion. But in general, I think they're good goals.
Great, thank you. And I know Steve, you're there. I know Steve had sent me an email prior that he liked the goals as well. Just, I don't know if he can hear us. Great, thank you. Review of...
Steve, are you there?
I'm here. Okay. Thank you for checking on him. Review of curriculum guides. I think we've... Michael?
Yes, thank you. As Mrs. Branch mentioned, we did have a lot of curriculum guides that were up for approval: music, creative arts, visual arts, science, health, and physical education. Essentially, and what you'll notice, it's a little, it may not make sense to you, but the latest updated standards by the New Jersey Department of Education is actually from 2020. So they're always a little bit behind. You'll always see reference to a date that's previous to where we currently are, because they go through a pretty extensive process, including feedback from the communities in changing standards. So the latest standards by the New Jersey Department of Education they were adopted back in 2020, so those are the new standards we're operating under for the guides that you see before you. Typically, obviously, the standards are updated. Remember when I mentioned those statements that are given to us by the state? We make sure when we create the curriculum guides that we update our resources if any resources have changed, online programs, assessments, guiding questions for teachers. We try to make sure all of the links are working. Sometimes they do disappear between the summertime and now, so thank you to those board members who check things like that and notify us when things aren't working so we can go in and make quick changes. But typically, we do a lot of work over the summer, thanks to our teachers and our supervisors who supervise these areas. They ultimately get sent to me and my office, and then we go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure they are as perfect as they can be. To Dr. Hibbs's point, I really want to stress on the LGBTQIA. Thank you, Victoria, I think your name was out there. You had mentioned focusing on lifestyle and choices. We don't do that at all. We certainly focus just on the accomplishments and thread those throughout as mandated by the New Jersey Department of Education. So we can't just restrict that content to health and PE, although I love that idea. I think that's that's a nice idea, we just can't make that choice. We do have to thread it throughout our curriculum, but we do it in a way where we just focus on the accomplishments. So other than that, are there any questions that anybody has? Yes, Mrs. Ames.
And this had like recommended texts I was looking at. So this is like a multi-part question. Do the district pay for that and provides it to the teachers? I'm assuming yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can teachers go off script and purchase their own? Let's say they find an amazing book at Barnes & Noble's. Can they purchase it? And do they need to get approval for that? Meaning you need to approve the book before they read it to the class or before it gets distributed to the students.
So typically if it's a book, yes, we tell them not to purchase entire books for them to read. But if a teacher decides to find an article, let's say they're searching articles, right, and they find a resource and they're
Maybe
using...
I spoke wrong. It's a text, let's just say, whatever wordage you want to use. They still don't get your approval type of thing?
It's permissible. I can't be in 450 classrooms, okay. So yeah, if somebody does...
So the teacher has the leeway then?
They do.
Okay,
they do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So to follow up on that question, because that's a great question. If they're using something that's outside, that goes through Genesis and gets into their lesson plan,
yes,
and then you see it.
Correct.
So we would ultimately know about that if that happens, correct?
We would, yeah. So
okay.
As Dr. Hibbs mentioned, the lesson plans are submitted on a weekly basis in Genesis. Any resources that they're using are linked in there. So yes.
If they go outside of a resource that is not on our curriculum, do they flag it so that we know to look at it, or how is that? No. Mm-hmm. Can we? I don't know. I don't know the systems. Is that possible? No.
It's really not.
Yeah, you would need someone else to honestly manage that. To be honest with you, this doesn't end up to just be really honest. It doesn't end up being a problem, really. The teachers, really, if they're going and finding an ancillary material, they're finding something that typically would fit under whatever category it is. If you're talking about water filtration, they're just using a different article on water filtration. Just like a teacher would be free to use a read aloud and read a book off their shelf for a read aloud. So anything systemic, they're not allowed to switch. If the book is supposed to be holes, they're not allowed to switch out holes and do Frindle. That's not what happens, but they do have a book list where they can choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Ms. Fix used the book dot.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
That was not being her curriculum. But
yeah, no, I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just asking how that, because yes, I'm sure our teachers are doing amazing jobs, but if there is something rogue happening, how do we know that? Or how can we, because I think that's some of the parental concerns, right? If someone is going rogue, how are we managing that? Because you can't be in 450 classes, so how as a district do we handle that?
So I think Trish said it perfectly. You said with the lesson plans, right?
It's monitored there. Plus, parents, if someone went rogue, and I honestly don't recall anything that comes to mind over the last 9 years, our parents, they're not shy about letting us know. And if something would happen, I'm sure we'd get an email about something that happened in a classroom, just like, if there was an altercation between students,
sure,
whatever that would be. But if there was, a parent could email, or an administrator could see it through a walkthrough, or it will be caught through a lesson plan. But teachers have the freedom, the academic freedom, to use different types of resources.
And just so, I think when I read through the health curriculum, it was helpful for me, because I'm not a teacher, to understand what you helped us understand, and I think you addressed it here as well, that the standard is the standard. That is something mandated through the state, correct? Mm-hmm. And that the curricula is how we are able to address it. So there's terminology that I think is, again, that concerns me, that's it's on the curriculum that is state mandated. So I was very pleased to have the general conversation in committee about what is that actually, okay, that's the standard, which personally was a little frightening to me. Some of the way that they worded the standards I was really not happy with, but I was happy to have more conversation around what does the curricula actually, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think Victoria, we have flexibility.
Yeah.
Right? So we have the flexibility, and I think it was comforting to me to kind of hear how we do handle it, which I think was appropriate.
Yeah.
Good.
And we're also, anyone who has a question, you can reach out to Mr. Balone, and he'll be happy to talk to you about any concerns you may have and talk you through that and give you examples about what we're specifically doing. We want to make sure that you have the right information and you feel comfortable.
Great, and that was a good explanation, Trish, with the standards and the curriculum so that people
Yeah,
can
I mean,
understand.
sometimes I think it's great to be a teacher and to be on the board, but sometimes when you're not a teacher on the board, there's things that come up that it's sometimes hard to understand. So it's good to have these conversations.
Yeah.
What's that?
All about it, believe me.
Right. Great, thank you, and thank you for your contribution to that.
Thank you, Mike.
Everyone good with the curriculum? Okay, we're going to move on to our mandatory hearing on district violence and vandalism report.
Yeah, I'm going to report this for Mrs. Tardio, who is in charge of doing this, and she does a great job. So per requirements, we are mandated to have 2 hearings per year, so I have to report that at this second hearing, which is from January 2021 through June 2021, we had 8 incidents that were classified as harassment, intimidation, or bullying. 2 incidents were classified as damage to property. 1 was classified as a fight. 1 was classified as substance possession. 1 was classified as substance use confirmed, and 1 was classified as an assault. And that is the 8 that occurred between January 2021 and June of 2021, Madam President.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our financial and business operations matters. Jen, could you please read?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, list of bills. 3, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report. 4, travel. 5, 2021-2022 school year bus routes. 6, further amended resolution out of district placement for the 2021-2022 school year. 7, allowance credit, VMG Group, Frank J. Dugan School Roof, Phase 1. 8, allowance credit, VMG Group, Dugan School Roof, Phase 2. 9, approval of professional service agreement, Robertsville Elementary School partial roofing replacement. 10, authorization for ESCNJ to develop nursing services contract for the 2021-2022 school year. 11, donation. 12, donations. 13, approval of 2 agreements with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey. 14, award of bid after school sports enrichment programs. 15, approval of agreement with Bayada Home Health Care Incorporated for the provision of substitute nursing services. 16, approval of agreement for sign language interpretation services. 17, approval of shared services agreement with the Township of Marlboro. 18, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jill. Any discussion? I just want to say thank you to Staples for the 360 supply kits, and thank you to Asher, Abbott, Tofino, Dugan, Mar-El, Memorial, Middle, Robertsville for the giveaway stuff for Marlboro Day, and I think the community really enjoyed getting those goodies, and everyone was excited to get something from their school.
Yeah.
So it was
That
really
was, we didn't talk about it, but the Marlboro, and I don't know if it's on, I didn't look for the agenda, but thank you for going to Marlboro Day.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was great.
Everybody
Yes.
that went. I was able to be there for a little bit, but thanks to everybody. It was a great day.
Great day.
It was-
Absolutely.
It really was.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that more.
Doing
Good
it
time.
every year.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Okay, Vin.
Sure. Roll call vote, Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Mr. Furlan?
Yes.
Dr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Schifrinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Salachi?
Quick question. Because I'm on the PTO at Mar-El, do I have to abstain for the donations?
Jill?
Number 12?
She's on the
PTO.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the PTO?
Just abstain from it.
I just want to make sure.
It's a donation of
donation?
goods.
Donation.
Yeah, just
Then yes.
abstain from it.
So
Yeah,
abstain.
abstain.
Wait, you don't just mean like member, like you're on the.
She's,
I'm
yeah,
the treasurer.
she's on the board.
I'm fine.
She's on the board.
If you're a general member, you don't have to
Yeah.
abstain, but
Then
if you are in a leadership position.
All right, and that's what I thought,
And
I just wanted to clarify.
I need to abstain for number 12 as well.
For just the, you don't, you have.
Executive board.
Right, but you only have to abstain for that specific, you
Yeah.
you don't have to abstain for
Right,
every.
so Mrs. Shrem's abstaining
Right.
from number
Right.
12, and then
Yes.
Mrs. Salachi's
Got it.
abstaining from number 12 as well, correct? Or
Yes,
number?
and yes. So
Okay.
yes, and I abstain for number 12. Thank you. Thank
You're just abstaining for your particular school.
For my school.
Your school, Maurel,
That's it.
right?
All the other, all the
Yeah.
other schools.
Susie,
I'm
same
good
thing,
with.
Maurel.
Same, yep, same, please.
They're both
Okay.
Maurel.
I know. Sorry,
Okay.
both Marlboro Elementary.
All right, not a problem, it's noted. And lastly, Mrs. Wolf.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Curriculum matters. Trish, can you please read?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, approval of the health and physical education curriculum guides. 2, approval of science curriculum guides. 3, approval of visual and performing arts curricular guides. I so move.
Great, do I have a second? Jill, thank you. Your hands, I just see you first. Discussion on the curriculum guides. Thank you again to Mr. Blow and everyone who worked on those curriculum guides over the summer. It's a lot of work goes into it, lots of hours.
Absolutely.
Thank you to the teachers. Okay, then.
Sure, roll call. Mrs. Amster?
1, no, yes for 2 and 3.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Furland?
Yes.
Dr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Schifrinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Salachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
And Mrs. Wolf?
Yes, thank you. Personnel matters, Paul.
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, resignations. 2, rescinded employment offer. 3, employment certificated staff. 4, employment part-time certificated staff. 5, employment instructional assistants. 6, employment kindergarten basic skills instructional assistant. 7, employment school aide. 8, employment school monitor. 9, employment bus attendant. 10, employment maintenance mechanics. 11, employment additional teaching time. 12, bus drivers, hours and salaries, 2021 to 2022 school year. 13, bus attendants, hours and salaries, 2021 to 22 school year. 14, reassignment, non-certificated staff. 15, reassignment and transfer, non-certificated staff. 16, curriculum, CPR, first aid training. 17, ESL screening, amended. 18, curriculum, Title I coordinator. 19, curriculum, Title I building facilitators. 20, curriculum, power coaches. 21, curriculum, reporting and data coordinators. 22, curriculum, LEAP coaches. 23, curriculum, RISE coaches. 24, curriculum, RISE facilitators. 25, curriculum, ESL family literacy program coordinators. 26, curriculum, ESL family literacy facilitators, curriculum writing. 27, curriculum, ESL family literacy program facilitators. 28, curriculum, online programs coordinators. 29, curriculum, turnkey trainers. 30, curriculum coordinators, ELA, math, science, social studies. 31, curriculum, ed camp professional day presenters. 32, stipend mentor teachers. 33, stipend student information and data service manager. 34, stipend acting principal. 35, child study team and teachers evaluations and meetings. 36, amended extracurricular activities advisor. 37, student observation. 38, substitute rates teachers. 39, substitute rates school nurse. 40, substitute rates non-certificated positions. 41, substitute rates bus drivers and bus attendants. 42, substitute teachers. 43, substitute secretaries. 44, substitute bus drivers. 45, substitute school monitor. 46, paid medical disability leaves. 47, unpaid leaves of absence. 48, amended resolution leave dates.
That's it. And that's it.
I so move.
Great, do I have a second? Trish. Sorry.
It was a novel.
Can't see you, can't see me. Any discussion? Okay, Vin.
We do have just a few corrections.
Mhm.
So, first one being on number 6, employment kindergarten basic skills instructional assistant. So right now, the effective date says 9/15/21. That is actually just going to be changed to 9/2/21. The next one is on the following page, number 7, employment school aid. So the effective start date of 9/27/21 is going to be changed to 10/4/21. And then the last one is on page 40.
Okay, yep.
And that is unpaid leaves of absence, number 47. The first employee, Mrs. C. Sally. So the start date where it says half day on 10/12/21 is actually just going to be a full day. So it'll just say 10/12/21.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Vin.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mrs. Amster?
No for 18 and 33, yes for everything else.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Schifrinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Salachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Mr. Furlan?
Abstain from 18 and 32, yes to everything else.
Thank you. And Mrs. Wolf?
Yes. Policy Development and Community Relations Matters. Kathleen.
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, first and second reading. I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Susie, thank you. Any discussion on this policy? Thank you. Vin?
Sure. Roll call vote. Mrs. Salachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Strafasi?
Yes.
Mrs. Branch?
Yes.
Mr. Furland?
Yes.
Dr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Schifrinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
And Mrs. Wolf?
Yes, we just need to make a correction, Mr. Furlan. Paul, I think you needed to abstain on number 33. 18 was correct, but 33 as well, not 32.
Hold on, let me make sure.
If you want to just double check.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
33.
thank you.
Yep.
Vin, got
All right,
it.
so this is for personnel. Mr. Furlan will be abstaining from number 18 and 33.
33,
Correct,
yep.
33, sorry.
That's okay, no worries.
Good catch.
Joe. Okay, we're going to move on to our liaison reports. Monmouth County School Boards.
We just had a meeting on the we're having the meeting on the 28th.
Okay.
And it'll be either live or virtual, you could choose.
Great, thank you. So you'll be able to report at the
Yes.
next meeting. New Jersey School Boards.
So we had a meeting on Saturday, and we had a representative from Governor Murphy's office come and basically talked about COVID in the schools and all of that. That took up a lot of the meeting.
Great,
So,
thank you.
yep.
Thank you for attending. Freehold Regional.
Their next meeting will be the 30th. They really pushed it out because of back to school night, which will be Thursday. They also had, and they're still discussing the referendum. I mean, well, it's not discussing, it's on the ballot. And they had a bunch of physicians from Central State come and speak to their Freehold Regional Board, and I heard that was very informative.
Great. I know we're working on that too, getting that for us as well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Alliance, Steve? Marlboro Township Alliance?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Nothing.
Nothing, no meetings. Marlboro Township County began to mail ballots this week to those who have chosen to vote by mail. Marlboro has a drop box in our town hall parking lot, so you can put your ballot there or mail or bring to the county. Time to opt out of vote by mail has passed, but you can still get a vote by mail ballot. If not sure, vote by mail or any other questions directed to the Monmouth County Clerk. Website is monmouthcountyvotes.com. Polls will be open as well as for early voting. Sign up for town emails and follow official Facebook page for more. PTA, PTO.
Meeting coming up.
Meeting coming up, so you'll report at that at our
Certainly will.
next.
Yep.
Marlboro Educational Foundation. The 2021-2022 school year has begun. The teacher's favorite, Monday Jeans Day, has begun. Thanks to all the teachers who donate to the foundation and so that they could wear jeans on Monday. Look for our first ever school-wide community spirit gear fundraiser. We continue to be Marlboro strong. The MEF hopes everyone has an awesome 2021-2022 school year.
It's the best $35 going.
The teachers love it. It's an easy fundraiser. It's a good fundraiser. Old business. I wanted to say on Marlboro Day, thank you to the board members that came and sat at the booth for hours, helped set up, helped break down, and to the staff, to Dana, Michael, Vin, Eric, thank you so much for coming out and being there and talking to the families and talking to community members and the kids. And they, you know, it was a really nice day, and I think everyone really, it was a nice, really nice day. Thank you to the board members again that came out and sat at the table for hours and hours. New business. Oh.
Happy birthday to my son, Andrew. Happy birthday, Andrew. Sorry mommy's not there, but we celebrated over the weekend.
Happy birthday, Andrew.
He looks so embarrassed right now.
Paul.
Back, there was two questions I had about some of the public comment things, and I just wrote them down, but I didn't get a chance to ask them. So before we go any further, I just wanted to ask two questions. One was about the Chartwell's food issue, and Vin said that it would be put out to bid. Is the process for that always the lowest bid wins?
So usually it's a little bit different. So usually in the bid we have to set a guarantee that we want to meet. So based off of the cost and the proposal that they submit. So right now we have a $50,000 guarantee that the company has to meet at the end of the year. So that means that has to be our income. So usually those proposals work based off of that. So usually based off of the operating cost, the fixed cost, the labor cost, when a company submits something, if they can't meet that guarantee, then they usually go to the bottom of the pile.
Just real quick, it's not. It's not.
Neither do I.
For food service, it's a little bit different. It's not just the lowest bidder. There's a chart that we prepare when we put out to go out to bid, including the guarantee, like Vinny said, and additionally how they run the program, what the kind of food it is. Sometimes we have them come in and demo the food for us before we would give them the points on that. We basically fill out a chart, and whoever scores the highest on that chart would be the one we have to go with.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it may be Chartwell's, it may be any other company that submits.
And typically, how many companies would bid on that? Yeah, how many would you get?
2.
Yeah, honestly, there's probably only about 5.
I can't imagine there's very many, but
throughout the state,
okay.
We usually get about 2.
I haven't been part of the bidding process for that specific section here yet, but normally in the past I've seen, anywhere from 3 to 5 companies, and you have like Sodexo, Pomptoni, and Chartwell's, all the big names that will submit.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to get back to because about her question about the bidding and then the dollar amounts and everything. And the second question was about you had mentioned, I think Mr. Below mentioned that there were 259 staff members that were unvaccinated, and there was a question posed about testing the unvaccinated people. And your answer, Dr. Hibbs, your answer was something along the lines of, we're happy to test them if they want to be tested. I think the question was more, and I could be wrong, but the question I would have is more or less that
mandating?
whether or not they should, whether or not they need to be tested.
No, the unvaccinated people have to be tested. Vaccinated, the question was, can vaccinated teachers, why aren't we testing vaccinated teachers? Because there could be breakthrough cases. That was the question. I think Dr. Hibbs said.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
I have a question actually about that with the vaccination. So you did hear back from every single staff member whether or not they would agree to that. I think it's mid-October, the deadline, where they're going to.
I think it's October 18th.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's 907. I don't have it in front of me. I think that's our total number of staff members.
Okay.
So I think it adds up to that. So it's over 200, which is pretty significant. That's going to be a very large testing pool.
Okay, but no one's resigned because of it?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not to say that they won't.
Right, but they still have till
Yeah,
October
there's
18th,
definitely the
right?
fear of that, because especially if districts can become crippled in certain areas with even just a few different resignations. So if we had 10 bus drivers right now say, I don't want to do this and I'm out, that's going to be catastrophic for us. So at that point, we don't have any right now, and I'm hoping that it stays that way, and we're going to try to be as accommodating as possible. But the reality is that everything that's happened over the past 2 years, I always knew things worked slow, but lately what it is that you get directions at the 11th hour, and by 11:01 you have to have a plan. So what we're waiting on right now is for the state to award, I'm guessing, the bid or whatever it is to the specific vendors, because right now they're trying to figure out who actually, as a school district put in to do the grant, and then how big are they, what do they look like, and then logistically they have to place it around. So we don't know how this could be. They could say, Eric, you have, we're going to have a Manalapan and we're going to have a Marlboro site, whatever that might be, or it might be where we have our own site. With 200 people, that's really
tricky.
That's really a large chunk.
Yeah.
So when you were looking at outside people, they honestly were looking at to make money on an outside company. They really wanted 500 tests per week. Well, if we were testing twice, we would meet that just with us. So or almost there with us. So, and then offering it to the parents and students that might want it as well as a resource, you'd obviously have some there. I don't know what that would be, but we have to wait and see what that looks like.
And all right, I have one more question.
Sure.
Vincent, you had said about the unfinished kindergarten applications, like there were some where they just never, they never finalized. How many were those?
Yeah, I believe about last Monday, there was about 40 unfinished applications in which our registrar was actually trying to, work with the parents to get the correct documentation so they can come to school. So there's about 40 still outstanding applications.
I was just curious because with the news that the schools that are under the child care licensing versus the Department of Education, those parents might say, well, if my child now has to mask in X private school, why am I spending $700 a month? I'm just going to enroll them in public kindergarten.
Yep.
So I don't know if is there any plan in motion, like a just in case? Because I mean, it shouldn't be a ton of kids, but I'm thinking our numbers might go up.
Yeah.
So we have a complete enrollment doc, and what ends up happening is that Michael and I, we watch this constantly, and we're looking at numbers all throughout the summer, and it's a real-time doc. So when Heather has that, she actually lists for us the people in queue, so to speak, and also where we are, so we can see. And we use that to make staffing decisions in the summer. And for instance, we added a few positions at the very end of this year, based upon late enrollments that pushed class sizes. I think it was third grade and second grade into the 23 and 24 type child in a classroom, which was just too many. So we watch that and we react accordingly. If we have to add a section, we add a section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
No.
I promise. I know I'm annoying today. I know. I'm sorry.
You're not annoying.
The question about the tents. Going back to the tents for a thing. So is my understanding then is you have the tents, you gave the tents to the schools. It's up to the schools how they want to use the tents. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So what I did was, I met with each and every administrator, and my order was, and it was an order, and I don't always give transactional orders, but this was an order. Mr. Balone can and Dr. Blair can attest to this. It was a huge admin meeting. We talked about them being used for lunches, for snacks, and for outside learning. Now, am I out at every building, at every day, seeing how they're being used? I'm not. I can't be. It's just not even physically possible for me to do that. However, I did check in with every building today, and to be honest, there was one building today that hadn't done outdoor lunches yet, and I was very unhappy with that because that was not what I asked for, and nor was it what I intended. So, the principals have opened it up for anyone that would like to go outside. Now, to be honest with you, am I forcing a teacher to go outside? I'm not. I'm not doing that. So a teacher might say, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or I don't want to do that, and I'm not going to force it, and I'm not going to put someone into rotation, but they're there for anyone's use, 100%.
Is there a schedule or something that you have to sign up for? I'm going to use the tent this period or whatever.
There's also rotation for lunches as well. So lunches will rotate out and through, and that was correct in that it is a time when everyone can take their masks off, but it's a time for mask breaks. They can use it at mask breaks. They can do outside teaching there. They can go out and just catch the breeze. They can go for a walk. They're there for teachers and principals to utilize, and there's times as a superintendent where I have to be able to have to be able to set the table and have it then be carried, have it be carried across, you know? So I will definitely recheck in tomorrow and see exactly where we are, but
well, that was going to be my next
yeah.
thing, was just to say, you know, is there some way we could reach out to these schools and just say, listen, I appreciate what, you know, I'm not forcing anyone to do this, but we have these tents here, people want this done. Can you figure out a way to encourage it, figure out a way to make it done? You know, it doesn't seem like, I would think people would want to go outsid at this time of the year when it's still nice, you know, but again, I don't know. I'm not a teacher, so I don't know.
Feedback from the teachers as to why they haven't,
Or
they don't understand.
maybe just go back to the principals just so that, and have them go back to the teachers, because in all fairness, I was going to say this to you, you know, when driving past with my kids and I saw the tents, I said to my kids, oh, you know, which class did you have outside?
Yeah,
and
same thing,
they
lunch.
said, no, that's supposed to be for lunch.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and granted, we're only, 7 days in, like truly, we might be 2 weeks into school, 3 weeks, but we're only a couple days in, so maybe that just hasn't been rolled out to them
I
yet.
have an admin meeting on Thursday. I'll be happy to
Yeah.
have that on the agenda.
And definitely encourage, because I think that's great. We have them, we got them, let's utilize
And we
them.
paid a lot of money for the tents.
Right.
Let's utilize them.
I thought that too. Yes, we did.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions, everyone.
Sure.
Thank you.
We're going to move to our next public comments.
Sure.
Same
so
rules apply.
Mr. Doppelman would like to speak.
Leo Dableman, 51 Buttonwood Drive. All the hand-wringing that was done during the last meeting about your hands being tied and not being able to break the law was a poor performance. No one that I know of asked you to break the law. If you read Executive Order 251 and 253, it specifies very clearly the penalties for enacting policies that counteract the executive order, but nowhere does it prohibit speaking up and speaking out against it. Nor could that ever be prohibited, because that is your constitutional right and mine. So much for all the lip service you gave to not wanting to see our kids masked. It was wrong then, and it is wrong now. We trusted your words, and we trusted a draft plan you waved in the air sitting in that very chair, but never let us read. You've heard the saying before, trust is given, but mistrust is earned. You have earned our mistrust in spades. Stop sending us condescending emails about what we should or shouldn't do because we are all in this together. We're not together with you in anything. So from here on, no more words, please, just actions. Right now, through your actions, you're hurting our kids. Stop. Reverse course. Do better. Until you do, here's what I can promise you. You've all heard the expression, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. With all due respect to William Congreve's poetic gift and to all the scorned women of the world, their fury is nothing compared to what any decent parent will bring if you hurt their kids. Dear board members and members of the administration, it is time for you to stand up for our kids and to work to mitigate the harm that is being done to them, the way Kathleen Amster has done. If you won't stand up and protect our kids, then get ready for a fight. I heard your pleas to move past this, move forward, let you get back to other matters. I'm here to tell you clearly, not a chance in hell. We are going to fight you every step of the way. We will explore and exhaust all peaceful and legal means of protest and resistance. We will work with our police, who we respect tremendously and who don't intimidate us in any way, to find out exactly where the absolute line of civil disobedience and protest is, and we will toe that line. And it will be from that line, not just from this microphone or on social media, that you will hear our angry voices. Now, I do want to offer a bit of an olive branch here. I know that all board members are unpaid volunteers, and I can absolutely understand how some of you may be thinking that you ran at a different time for different reasons, and that you never signed up for this fight. I can understand that. I'm here to tell you, just resign. Resign and leave with my personal thanks for your service. And while we're on the topic of elected office, I believe it was Mr. Facci that highlighted the fact that this is what democracy is all about, and if we don't like the executive order, we shouldn't vote for Murphy. Believe me when I say that all the people in Trenton will feel our wrath. But gubernatorial elections only happen once every 4 years and involve a whole lot of constituencies. The legislature every 2 years. But our Board of Education has an election every single year right here in Marlboro. We have a fantastic slate of candidates this year, but whatever happens, make no mistake about it, on November 3rd, we begin working on the next election, and so it will be every year. We have a deep bench in this room. My youngest just started first grade. That means you have at least 8 years of me, and I'm damn serious about seeing every single person now hurting my kids gone. And I will work relentlessly and patiently towards that goal. And by the way, in 8 years, we'll still have cases.
Gaining my courage today. I just want to go back to number 7, which you failed to read before the votes, which was if each board member could justify their vote regarding the decision to give Mr. Ballone a stipend to our kids for not meeting our education standards. So thank you for not answering that. In regards to the curriculum guides, is there a way that we could write the curriculum guides in more normalcy terms that the parents could understand, where we don't say words like gender roles and identity and sexual orientations and learning about immigration status and family configurations and sexual feelings and masturbation and puberty progression, so parents will understand and have a better understanding of what the teachers are actually teaching our kids? And are the online program coordinators reviewing the teaching plans? Because you said you don't have a chance to go over the 400 plus teachers' curriculums and what they are going to be giving our kids in their handouts and their online learnings. So just want to figure out how we can work together for our parents and our kids. Thank you.
You got it, Mike.
Okay, let me start with, I'm going to go backwards, I think. The online program coordinators. The online program coordinators are not administrators, they are teachers. So they are not reviewing lesson plans. Principals and vice principals, building level administrators review lesson plans. I get involved in reviewing lesson plans if you know, something comes to light that I need to see that traverses my way. In terms of using plain language, all of those terms that you did mention, they're adult terms, they're proper terms that you can find anywhere.
And I think they're also in the standards as well.
Well, they are in the standards, but they're really meant for adults to understand what is being taught. So teachers are using our curriculum guides, parents can view our curriculum guides using appropriate terms that are proper terms for those various subjects are what we use. But they are, some of those terms like sexual orientation or things of that nature are, as I mentioned before, statements that are provided to us that must be in those guides.
Thank you, Mr. Ballone. Ange, I think you were next. Ange Delgoudis.
Nope, I think Mrs. McCormick was first, and then Mr. Delgoudis.
He raised his hand and got my attention.
Ashley McCormick, 16 Riley Road. I'll just be real quick. On page 6 of the agenda, where the relocation for renting the tents is listed, the description is listed that the tents are for school for outdoor eating. I don't know when this agenda was created, but we were definitely under the impression that the tents were for learning, not just eating. So just to let you guys, let the board know, we, the community, thought they were for learning under, not eating. Our cafeterias are air conditioned. We would like our kids in the air conditioning without their mask on. None of this, like parents that I know of, are reporting that their kids are learning under it at all.
Vin, I just want to clarify on that. It looks like the transfer was based on a line item under the B&G equipment rental budget, right? You're just moving around money for the budget on that, right?
Yeah, is there a question, or?
I just want to make sure that's what it is. Okay.
Thank you.
Which one are you referring to, Joe?
No,
What Ms. McCormick just
what Mrs. McCormick was just referencing for the outdoor eating, but I think you were just, that explanation is there because of the way the budget line item works.
Well, correct. So, if you're going to provide outdoor eating and
Right.
also, classroom time under the tents, a certain portion of it has to be charged to food service, and a certain portion
Right.
has to be charged to the operating budget. So that transfer is just to reflect that it's a rental for the equipment because we had breakage in the salaries for B&J.
Right, and I think Dr. Hibbs addressed the outdoor instruction
Yeah,
portion.
and to be very honest, you don't have to believe me. I'm not going to try to convince you, but the conversations that we had with all the administrators were all about using the tents for a multitude of reasons. And there's no way that we would have had a ton of outdoor learning. A lot of places don't have the space for it. We would have lost grounds. B, having that many kids outdoors is honestly something that we don't do for safety reasons. So it's just those are the conversations we honestly have.
All right, Mr. Del
I can
Guzis?
go?
Yeah.
All right. Angelo Delgaitis, 2 Old Scotts Road. Apologies for being late, but I do have to say that the technology works great. I was driving home from work from Delaware, and I listened to the whole
that's great.
the whole board session on the YouTube channel. So if you can't make it here, you can absolutely listen to it. So just a couple of quick questions for me. Just with regards to the air condition assessment, I believe in last month's materials, it talked about a $15,000 fee we were paying for an assessment. Just would welcome any thoughts on when we would expect to hear a readout on that assessment and next steps. I thought some really good conversation in the last board and the one before around, pursuing that, and would be very interested to know how that's progressing, because that's definitely a hot button for the community. I listened to the community member with regards to the concern on 10. Great discussion just now. I offer this as a suggestion. I wonder if a readout from the schools as to how they're being utilized, lunch or whatever, just to calm the concern a little bit or clarify the concern of the community. So just a suggestion on that. And then lastly, if I heard right, we said there's 259 staff not vaccinated, which is roughly 29%. That's a high number. In corporate world, we have similar numbers as well. We're starting to think about contingency plans, and just curious as to what would happen if those staff choose not to get vaccinated. We talk about keeping kids in school. How are we going to do it, and what are some of the discussions? As I'm sure you are having them as a community member, I'd be really keen to understand how you're thinking about that, because that is a reality that some of these staff will not want to get vaccinated, and we talk so much about keeping kids in school. So would welcome any feedback on that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Okay, so I'll jump on the first thing and give an assessment on where we are with the HVAC plan. So I did mention to bring up an old business. So we are having the AC study done right now. So the mechanical engineer has completed a part of his HVAC analysis as far as he can go for the schematic piece of it. So what he reviewed is the schematic AC loads for each space have been calculated, and the next step is to split the areas up into the VRS system. But they're just waiting on a couple of PV layouts or just some additional layouts for additional schools to see how that will work and how that will flow. Right now, where we're at with the info that we've generated is, so he's going to actually come back out this Wednesday, and he's now able to head out to the schools and survey the electrical systems. So now he's going to survey the electrical loads, the electrical systems, to see if they can, withstand that increased load of electricity. So we're hoping that this is going to be done sometime in October, where we would schedule a B&G committee meeting, and then we would report back to the board and the public as a whole as of where we are, and having some cost proposals as well with that.
Thank you, Vin.
I'll just finish.
At this point.
Happy to check in next time with how things are being utilized. I think that's a great suggestion. And if the staff choose to not be vaccinated, Angelo, what happens is that they have to submit to testing then. If they don't submit to testing, then they will not be working here.
No, they have to.
Yeah. So we'll have to, it would depend on the number of people. I don't foresee a large number of them resigning or refusing. Honestly, I think that in this climate, jobs are important. But I'll know more about that when we have more details and when they come from the state, and I'll be happy to report out on that.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to clarify
Just
a
repeat
couple.
your name so that any.
Victoria, this
Thank
is
you.
Victoria. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. And this gentleman, you had referred to a number of things as well. And I want to reiterate that this school board is definitely dealing with these issues in a respectful way. So I really appreciate that. It's not always that way. But what this gentleman said, that it has to go into all the subjects, is it inaccurate? I had a meeting with Dr. Repaulette, as well as 11 of the people that are on from my organization. And if you don't know, Dr. Repaulette was the former Commissioner of Education. And he said clearly to us in that meeting that the basically talking points is that this law, the LGBT curriculum law, as well as the new inclusion law that was passed in March, are required by law to go in all of the subjects in the inclusion law K through 12. However, both laws have in an appropriate place. And Dr. Repaulette told us to our face that it's up to the school board to decide where it goes. We've been successful in 2 different schools so far. It's only 2, but in 2 different schools so far that are only putting this in health. So you guys, as the school board, have the authority to decide where this material goes. You really do. It's your legal right and your duty as a school board member to make the decision as to where you think it's appropriate. So I'm going to plead with you that you look into that, because I'm 100% accurate, and you weren't inaccurate. You do have to follow the learning standards, but these terms are only sprinkled in a little tiny bit in history, a little tiny bit in science, that you could do it in a very innocent way, but not in health. If you only put it in health, you absolutely can give the parents the right to opt out. I'm giving you accurate information. I met with Dr. Repaulette. Everybody from the Department of Education was there, the curriculum people, the policy people, the attorneys. We discussed this in length. You do have the authority, and I'm hoping you would look into that, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that, Dr. Hibbs?
Sure.
I think we're agreeing. I don't remember saying that it had to be in every single content area. If that's what you heard, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. You're right. It's where we find it appropriate. That's what the legislation states. So I'm certainly aware of that. But we have placed it in the appropriate content areas. I can't speak for other school districts who are placing it only in health or physical education. But what I will do for you is I will contact our county superintendent and ed specialist, and we can at least ask the question. We are being QSAC this year, so we need to make sure that we are in compliance with what the expectations are in Monmouth County. I know some counties are different, but we certainly, I think we're saying the same thing. I in no way meant that it has to be in every single subject. And in addition to that, it really is only in grade 6 and higher, right? So that's the other place where it actually, where you'll see it show up.
And Victoria, if you would like, we can't have any back and forth, but if you'd like to reach out to Mr. Balone to discuss this further at a later time. He's Assistant Superintendent, mbalone@mtps.org. Okay, thank you. You can find his email address on the website. Thank you.
Valentina. So I just want to clarify my statement from earlier. First of all, I do want to preface that every time I've spoken to any of you, it's been with the utmost respect and kindness, and I always state fact, and I just hope that I can get the same in return. I did not state that people have complained. I stated only fact, that I've read reviews and content about Chartwells. I have not spoken to other parents who have told me they don't like it. It's solely based on what I've read, in the media, and not only from that Woodbridge case, but extensive research, because I lived in Homedale and we had the same food provider as well. You did answer the question, so thank you. I was concerned, is it only based on the lowest dollar amount? And you did clarify that you all do possibly taste the food before. I do ask, though, that is there a way that any of that information can be published, how that selection is made? I do know, just for myself as a concerned parent, what is the nutritional value? I did read about Pomptonian and a variety of others, again, that may have a little bit of a higher cost, but if you would just be kind enough to provide the vendors that you are looking at, since the contract is up, and maybe with the benefits, or we can do our own research on the pros and cons of each one, we would be happy to do that, or I would at least. So I'm just asking if you can look into that. The other thing is just to touch on something that Angelo had stated earlier, which is a contingency plan. So I too, we do have to deal with vaccinated versus non in my organization as well, and I too lead a training department. So I also have to prepare for employees or facilitators that I have to exit the organization if they choose to do so. We have not mandated any of that yet, it's just a statement. So just a question is to that point, will there be a contingency plan in the case? I know you stated that there might not be, but what would that contingency plan be? That's my question.
Thank you, and thank you for clarifying that on Chartwell's. I misunderstood you and thought you were talking about our districts.
Yep.
So thank you, I appreciate you clarifying that.
So we have right now who is and who is not currently. That could obviously change. When we have information from the state about testing, I will know specifically which staff members are saying, I'm not going to get tested, and then we will have to have a plan for each of these compartments to rehire. That's what we're going to have to do. That's the best answer I can give you right now. As soon as I have the information on what it looks like, we will again go to our staff, and then I don't envision a high turnover rate, to be honest with you. But if there is a few, we'll flip out and rehire. That's what we'll do, and go through the normal Marlboro hiring practices.
Thank you. If you could just state your name and address.
Elena Mardiak, 3 Helena Court, Morganville. I do have 2 questions. First one is regarding the social and sexual health of the 5th grade. As far as earlier in the summer, a friend of mine actually contacted you, Mr. Balloon, and we asked you if this was going to actually be part of the curriculum as far as teaching them what that means and whatnot. And you said to us, you replied in an email that no, it wouldn't be. All we were going to be doing as
Elena,
far
can you
as
just
LGBTQ,
look up here? So that
I'm sorry,
you have to direct to the
LGBTQ
board. You have to direct to, yeah,
would
sorry.
be pretty much stating the things that, you know, they accomplished over the years, and like a lot of the great things that they have, you know, like I understand that. But as far as the actual sexual relationships, that would not be included. And he said that him, as a father of young children, would not be for that either. He understands that. And he said, no, we will not be doing that. Unfortunately, from what I read from this draft of a curriculum, it seems to be a lie from him. Don't know exactly, you know, how far this is going to go, but we want to understand things as parents of 5th graders. We don't feel comfortable. And if this is going to honestly be part of that curriculum, we want to know, is there a possibility for us to opt out of it? First off, so that was my main concern overall. My second is because I am PTA president of Asher Homes. We're a small board, and you know this whole executive board that has come into play, which I do understand, about anyone coming in after a certain time, I believe it's like late October or something, needs to be vaccinated and or subjected to weekly testing. As far as weekly testing, well, we as individuals of that PTA, we are volunteers here, literally keeping all these events alive for these kids. Without us, if there's one board member of ours that refuses this, there will be nothing for the kids. It's very hard to replace board members, especially like in the midst of a year. So that is a major concern of mine. I want to understand, like, if there is to be weekly testing, who will be responsible for that? Are we responsible?
Sure,
are our insurance companies, technically us, and you know, responsible for that?
1 minute.
Or you know, just overall, like it's really hard. Like right now, we're dealing with the book fair, And it's really hard. It's a whole 5 days, and there's only a few of us on the board that are here to do this because we're not allowed anyone else in. So as this is just our first event, so I can't imagine having anything else for these kids to enjoy. Like, you know, that's all we're here for.
Understood.
Obviously. So we just want some answers with that. Hopefully there's some kind of other option
Sure.
for any of us, because I do know that there are plenty of people who are not willing to be vaccinated, so, and or tested weekly. So
Okay,
that is
thank
my
you.
question. Thank you.
Mr. Balone, would you like to just?
Sure.
I'm not sure she misunderstood.
Wow, in my 17 years here in this district, I've never been called a liar, so I actually take exception to that comment. I would love to sit down with you, and you didn't really provide any specifics on what issues you had with.
Okay, no back.
Yeah, I don't think we're going back and forth here, but
So
what
why
I'd love to
don't
do
you reach
is-
out and make an appointment, and maybe she'd come in
Absolutely.
and you could sit down and go over the curriculum that her concerns.
And then as far as the testing piece go, as if they're not vaccinated and they're not willing to get tested, they can't come in. That's just what
We can't have any.
Right. So if
Let him just.
my intention is for you as a volunteer to be able to be a part of our district testing protocols. If you're unwilling to do that, your complaint shouldn't be with me. It should be with the governor and his executive order. So
If we can't have any back and forth,
neither-
Elena.
and I'll explain it very clearly.
Wait, she wants to know how, we don't know yet how the testing, we're waiting
Yeah.
for the
Let me-
state
let-
to get
let me
back
just-
to
let me
us
finish,
on
and
that.
I'll be able to explain it to you. So you know how right now you can go for a normal PCR test, correct? So our goal is, and they haven't told us again what this looks like. So there's going to be a vendor that'll be a testing company that will be Marlboro's. My staff that are not vaccinated will have to submit to weekly testing, as will the volunteers. So you'll have to come to.
If they come regularly,
Yeah.
if they're coming for a one-time book fair, they do not have to be tested, so, so we can't,
Yeah, let me handle it.
Okay, Joe just told me that.
Yeah, but
No, he's got.
no. My goal is when that information comes, when you look at the executive order, it lumps in staff, it lumps in volunteers. So I think you will honestly be able to be a part of our process and the grant money that we have. If it is a one-time thing, you do not need to have a vaccination, nor do you have to submit for weekly testing. If you are an executive board member who is going to be in, and there's clear language in the EO, if you're going to be in the building more than a one-time thing, literally one time, then you have to either be vaccinated or you have to submit to our plan for testing. I will 100% come back to all of the PTAs and PTOs when I have the information that I can honestly make look like something, so that you know exactly what that is. And then, I mean, my honest hope is that if you don't want to become vaccinated, which is a personal choice, then if you want to come into the building, you have to submit to testing. If someone says I don't like either option, then they can't come into the building. That's not even my rule.
We can't go back and forth.
Yeah, we're not supposed to go back and forth.
Okay.
No, PCR
Sorry, Elena, we're not allowed to go back and forth. It's part of our policy. I'm sorry.
I'm happy to catch up with you. There's antigen, there's molecular, so we will not have rapid tests.
You also have your PTA, PTO meeting coming up.
We do.
So that might
Yeah.
be something to
Yep.
put on there
Definitely.
as a point of discussion.
Yep.
And then maybe we'll have more answers by that time.
Mrs. Bornstein?
Hi, good evening. Robin Bornstein, 24 Barnswallow Boulevard. I just have a few quick questions. One of them is it the standard or is it normal to go ahead and put staff actually into the buildings that are still pending results of criminal history reviews or completions of the sexual misconduct and child abuse disclosure release? Because I do know that there's at least 2 staff members that are actually in the buildings that on here are still pending the results of these 2 things. Another issue that I had, just a question. It's in regards to Chartwells, but not with food or anything, like that negative or anything. when the lunches and the snacks were going home, like last year, they were sending home water, milk, cheese sticks, apples, oranges. Great, that's the healthy food. My kids are coming home, apple juice, fruit punch, crackers, and can we sort of maybe go back to the milk and the water and the apples and the oranges, because that's more of the healthy stuff. A lot of this stuff, Pop-Tarts are not healthy, and those have been coming home, and I'm not giving those to my kids. So is there any way of going ahead and modifying what is coming home for the snacks? And in regards to the testing, the weekly testing, do we know when we'll get information as to how that's going to, what that's going to look like? Because it's almost the end of September at this point, and that whole process would be starting in October. And so we kind of have to, because I'm also on the PTA, we have to kind of know what's going on with that and what it's going to look like. Thank you.
Okay. As far as criminal history goes, in order to be in the buildings, you have to have your criminal history. So just because you're on the agenda, I mean, you're approving someone here, it could still be pending, but that needs to come in first, though, right, Mike and Paul?
Okay.
So along with the fingerprint requirement, we can also hire someone as an emergent hire, which will give us 60 days until the fingerprint has been completed. Now, as far as the sexual misconduct, the child, there's a, if I'm not mistaken, 20 days that the employer has to submit this information back to us. So while the individual submit us the information, we will reach out to the employers and they'll have 20 days to get back to us.
But that also will come up on Pass the Trash too, correct?
Mm-hmm. That is Pass the Trash.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that
Comes
would
up
come
quickly,
to
right?
us. So, Robin, if there's a specific thing, why don't you get us afterwards and point out? So, I mean, it's a whole 48-page agenda. That would be great. I'll talk about healthier snacks with Vinny. I don't honestly micromanage the snack process. I will tell you though that last year. Oh, Vinny, you want to go?
Department of Agriculture, we do have to offer meals based off of a certain set of guidelines. So a fruit or a vegetable, a protein, a milk, and then they can choose a choice of a snack, but it has to be within a certain criteria, such as grain or wheat. But as far as the bags that you're receiving, those are snack bags. So if you don't want to receive those, you can opt out of getting those, but the balance of having a healthy meal is still in place for the lunch portion. I definitely am going to talk to Vinny about possibly providing healthier snacks in the bags. But before the snack bags, those were the same snacks that were always served in the cafeteria as well. But you do bring up a good point. I'll definitely look into it with Vinny. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think also, too, we had a lot of commodities last year, right, man?
Well, we had a lot of extra commodities that were just not being utilized. So, you know, we have to go to our commodity warehouse and receive those commodities. They were just giving us extras because there was just a lot of districts that were not opting into the program and were just having the commodities sit there. So they would give us extras.
With like 10, we would have a truck that would come with 10,000 pounds of bananas. I'm not even kidding you. And we would turn right, and Vinny wouldn't say no to any of that. We would just take it and throw it right back and give it out.
We did.
Yeah, it was great. And then as far as I did it literally, I mean, you were in there.
We
it was literally
Trish and I made
10,000
lunches.
pounds of bananas. It was crazy.
We made lunches.
It was bananas. And your third one, with complete exasperation, frustration, and sadness, no. And I'm dripping with sarcasm. When will we know when information will come? No. I wish I did.
I think he said like the 11th hour, and we have to have the plan at 11:01. So hopefully that will.
I'll talk about this at the PTO meeting, and then I'll disseminate information. To be honest with you, to put it out in pieces at times, it doesn't do any good. It generates more questions that I don't have answers to. So everyone just kind of has to hold tight in that circle pattern right now. And then as soon as we have it, we'll clearly communicate.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Sugarman Lawrence. I live at 36 Hudson Street here in beautiful Marlboro, New Jersey. I wanted to thank you all for your service to our community and to our kids. Just a couple of things. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I did have some statistics that I wanted to read. It's more of a comment than a question. This is about the LGBTQIA inclusivity curriculum, which is an anti-bullying measure that was put forth by the state. So just a couple of things that I think is important for us all to understand. In 2021, an organization did some research that at least one LGBTQ youth between the ages of 13 and 24 attempts suicide every 45 seconds in the United States. And I think we all understand that representation matters. A couple of other things I wanted to read. New Jersey, all know, has some of the strongest anti-bullying laws in the country, but half of LGBTQ students have experienced some type of discrimination, and nearly 90% reported hearing anti-LGBTQ remarks. What makes this even more astounding, nearly a fifth of students report hearing school staff make derogatory remarks. Here's what the studies show the outcome of the LGBTQ inclusivity curriculum in the state of California, what they've already shown. And just so we're all clear, this is not sex ed. This is about the accomplishments of the LGBTQIA community as well as the disability community. Here's what the outcomes are. LGBTQ students were nearly half as likely to experience victimization in schools where inclusive in curriculum was available. Not once a month, but integrated into the curriculum. Reports of homophobic slurs and negative remarks declined across the board. Students were more than twice as likely to intervene on another student's behalf when they witnessed anti-LGBTQ remarks. However, in schools lacking an inclusive curriculum, students who were 14% more likely to skip a day of school if they identify as LGBTQ. So I think it's important to remember, not only is it representation important, but this is an anti-bullying measure put forth by the state to keep our kids safe. And just to reiterate, the highest incidence of teen and children suicide are by gay and transgender kids. So if this curriculum can save one child's life, then I think it's important that we see this all the way through and do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Vin?
Yep.
Okay, seeing no more public comments, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Susie, thank you. Do I have a second? Wait, Kathleen, you're usually the first second. Kathleen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, and thank you again to everyone coming out. Have a great evening. We'll see you next month.
Good night, Steve.